All right, so Thomas Edison. Want to know how he actually changed the world?
Well, get ready, because we're about to go way deeper than just the light bulb in this deep dive.
Yeah, way deeper. We've got his whole Wikipedia page right here.
And trust me.
It is packed with fascinating stuff.
You know, it's funny how everybody knows Edison for the light bulb.
Right?
But honestly, that's just like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I agree. His real impact goes so much deeper. It touches pretty much every part of modern life.
It really does.
So get ready to, have your mind blown as we uncover the true scope of his influence and discover what really earned him that nickname.
The Wizard of Menlo Park.
Exactly. We'll be checking out some of his less well-known inventions, too.
Oh, yeah.
Things that might really surprise you.
Definitely. One of the most fascinating things about Edison, though, is that he didn't just invent things,
Right.
He completely revolutionized the whole process of invention itself.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, let's break this down. The sources really emphasize how Edison pioneered this whole idea of the Industrial Research Lab.
And that was a total game changer.
It was.
Before Edison, invention was often a solitary pursuit.
Right.
But he created this collaborative environment at Menlo Park with a whole team of specialists from different fields all working together.
Bouncing ideas off each other.
Exactly.
Menlo Park was the first institution of its kind.
It was purpose-built to churn out groundbreaking inventions.
Revolutionary in itself. Instead of, tinkering away alone in a basement or something.
Yeah.
He had this whole team of researchers working alongside him.
And they weren't just working with scraps and leftovers either.
Right, right.
The sources mention that Edison insisted on having a stock of almost every conceivable material on hand.
Wow.
There's this amazing newspaper article from 1887 that actually describes what was in his lab.
Okay, hold on. I got to hear this.
Okay.
What kind of stuff are we talking about here?
Picture this. A vast space overflowing with 8,000 different chemicals.
8,000.
Uh-huh. Screws of every size imaginable.
Okay.
Needles.
Right.
Hair from all sorts of animals.
Wait, animal hair.
Animal hair.
Now I'm really curious. What was he doing with that?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But it points to Edison's belief in being prepared for anything.
Okay.
He wanted to be able to experiment with literally any material to solve any problem.
Right.
The article goes on to list things like silk, shark teeth, tortoiseshell, ostrich feathers.
Oh, wow.
You name it, he probably had it.
That's wild. It really paints this picture of, a mad scientist's paradise.
I know.
Fueled by Edison's insatiable curiosity.
Right.
And just determination to leave no stone unturned.
Yeah, and that brings us to a really crucial point.
Okay.
Edison's impact wasn't just about the inventions themselves.
Right.
It was about fundamentally changing the way we approach invention and research as a whole.
So he wasn't just some lone genius,
Not at all.
but a pioneer of teamwork and organized research.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
And the inventions that came out of this approach. A veritable symphony of innovations.
Okay, let's dive into some specifics then. Everyone knows about the light bulb, but what about the phonograph?
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine how revolutionary that was back in the day?
I know, right?
A device that could actually record and play back sound.
Think about it. For the first time ever, you could capture a moment in time,
Yeah,
a voice, a song,
right.
and experience it again and again. It wasn't just an improvement on something that already existed.
Right.
This was a totally new way of experiencing and preserving sound.
It must have completely captured people's imaginations.
Oh, absolutely.
No wonder they called him the Wizard of Menlo Park.
Yeah. He wasn't just an inventor. He was a straight-up celebrity.
Right.
And it wasn't just the phonograph. Edison was also behind things like the quadruplex telegraph,
Oh, yeah.
which could send 4 messages at the same time over a single wire.
Really?
Uh-huh. Huge leap forward in terms of communication, speed, and efficiency.
Right. Mind-blowing for the time.
Totally.
Okay, so what else?
And don't forget his work on improving the telephone.
Oh, right.
His carbon microphone was a key development in making the telephone a more practical and widely adopted technology.
So basically, the modern world of communication as we know it
Yeah.
wouldn't exist without Edison's contributions.
Pretty much. And then there's the motion picture camera, the kinetograph.
Oh, right.
Imagine seeing moving pictures for the first time.
Wow.
And remember those early peep show kinetoscopes?
Yeah.
Where you'd watch these short films through a tiny little window?
He basically laid the groundwork for the entire film industry.
He did.
It's incredible how many fundamental technologies we can trace back to this one guy.
It is. But remember, it wasn't just about creating gadgets.
Yeah.
Edison was also a shrewd businessman.
Right.
He understood how to bring those inventions to the market.
He had that entrepreneurial spirit, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't content with just like tinkering in his lab. He wanted to see his inventions make a real difference.
A real difference in the world, yeah.
And he built companies, created infrastructure,
Right.
brought electricity to the masses.
Exactly.
And that leads us to, well, another chapter in Edison's story,
A fascinating chapter.
the War of the Currents.
Ooh.
This is where things get juicy.
Things get interesting.
It wasn't just about inventing anymore. It was a battle over which type of electricity would power the world. AC versus DC.
Exactly.
And Edison had some strong opinions.
Oh, he did. He was a big believer in DC.
Okay.
The type of electricity that flows in a steady stream, like water through a pipe.
Got it.
He thought AC, which alternates its direction, was too dangerous.
Yeah.
The sources even quote him saying his rival, Westinghouse, who was promoting AC,
Right.
would kill a customer within 6 months.
Wow. Strong words.
Yeah.
So, to prove his point, Edison went to some pretty extreme lengths, huh?
He did. He even got involved in the development of the electric chair, using AC to demonstrate just how deadly it could be.
He was really trying to paint AC as a public menace.
He was.
But ultimately, he lost that war, right?
He did. AC proved to be more efficient
Yeah.
for long-distance transmission,
Yeah.
and it became the dominant form of electrical power.
So even Edison, the Wizard of Menlo Park,
Even Edison?
didn't win every battle.
Nope.
But that doesn't diminish his impact, right?
Not at all. His DC systems were a crucial step in the early days of electrification, especially in cities.
Okay.
And they helped pave the way for those AC systems that followed.
So far we've seen how Edison completely changed the game when it came to, like, the process of invention itself.
Yeah.
He created the blueprint for modern research labs.
Right.
And his inventions revolutionized communication, entertainment,
Uh-huh.
and, well, even the way our homes and cities are powered.
It's incredible.
It is. And we're just getting started.
And that's just the beginning. We haven't even touched on his later years.
Oh.
And some of his more unusual projects.
You got me hooked. I can't wait to hear what else he got up to.
Oh, you're going to love it. So it's amazing how much ground we've covered with Edison already.
I know, right?
And we're really just getting started.
It's mind-blowing how much this one man accomplished in his lifetime.
He really did.
He just seemed to always be pushing forward,
Yeah.
always exploring new ideas.
You're absolutely right. He had this restless, inventive energy that just never quit.
It's inspiring, really.
Even in his later years, he was tackling new challenges.
Oh, yeah.
Experimenting in all sorts of different fields.
Okay, I got to hear about this.
Oh,
We've talked about all these groundbreaking inventions.
right.
But what about these later projects you mentioned? What else was he working on?
Well, one fascinating project was his attempt to mine iron ore.
Iron ore.
Yeah.
What made him decide to go in that direction?
Well, he saw it as a way to address the rising cost of steel,
Away.
which was crucial for industries at the time.
Right, of course.
But unfortunately, it turned out to be a bit of a financial flop.
Ah, so even the Wizard of Menlo Park had his share of failures.
He certainly did.
Makes you feel a little better, right?
It does, it does.
But, I mean, that's an important part of the story, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Edison wasn't afraid to take risks,
Nope.
to try things that other people might have thought were impossible.
Exactly. And even when his projects failed,
Yeah.
he always learned something from the experience.
Such a valuable lesson. It's easy to get discouraged by setbacks, but Edison's persistence is really inspiring.
It really is.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
His willingness to go beyond the familiar,
Uh-huh.
to venture into uncharted territory,
Yeah.
it's a big part of what made him so innovative.
Exactly. Another great example of this is his work with goldenrod rubber.
Goldenrod rubber. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
Well, during World War I, there was a huge shortage of rubber,
Oh, right.
which was essential for all sorts of things like tires, other wartime materials.
Yeah.
Edison saw this as a critical problem,
Right.
and he needed to find a solution.
Okay, so what did he do?
Well, he had this idea that he could create a domestic source of rubber by cultivating goldenrod.
Goldenrod?
Goldenrod.
Seriously?
I know, it sounds a little crazy,
It does.
but Edison was convinced it could work. He tested thousands of different varieties of goldenrod, trying to find one that produced enough latex
Okay.
to make it commercially viable.
Wow. That's some serious dedication.
It is.
Did it work? Was he able to make rubber out of goldenrod?
He came incredibly close.
Really?
He actually did manage to develop a process for extracting rubber from goldenrod.
Wow.
And he even produced a few car tires made from it.
That's amazing. So why didn't it catch on?
Well, right around the time he was making real progress,
Yeah.
the war ended,
Oh.
and the demand for synthetic rubber decreased.
So it was a case of bad timing?
Partly,
Yeah.
but it also just highlights Edison's incredible foresight. He was already thinking about the need for sustainable and alternative resources way ahead of his time.
That's so true.
It is.
It seems like he was constantly looking towards the future,
Yeah.
trying to anticipate the challenges,
Right.
the opportunities that lay ahead.
Exactly.
And his goldenrod project
yeah.
wasn't his only foray into sustainability.
It wasn't. He also devoted a lot of energy to developing a better rechargeable battery.
Now that sounds more like the Edison we know.
Right.
Was this for electric cars?
He was certainly thinking about electric vehicles, even back then.
Wow.
But he also saw the potential for rechargeable batteries in all sorts of applications.
Oh, I bet.
You know, from powering homes to storing energy from renewable sources.
It's amazing how he was already grappling with issues that are still so relevant today.
It really is.
It really is. But what about his less famous inventions?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that didn't quite make it into the history books?
Well, one that comes to mind is his electric pen.
An electric pen? What's that?
It was a fascinating contraption that predates the mimeograph machine.
Okay.
It used a needle to create stencils for printing documents.
So it was sort of early version of a copy machine.
Exactly.
Interesting.
It was mainly used for making duplicates of documents, but as always, Edison saw the potential for more.
Oh, I bet.
He even envisioned it being used for things like tattooing.
Tattooing. That's a pretty wild leap.
I know.
But I guess it's not that surprising coming from Edison.
Not at all.
He always seemed to be thinking outside the box,
Yeah.
connecting these seemingly unrelated ideas.
Exactly. He was always looking for ways to apply his inventions to different fields,
All right.
to solve problems that other people might not even see.
And then there's his work with concrete, right?
Oh, yes.
Didn't he have some grand vision for concrete houses?
He did.
Yeah.
Edison was convinced that concrete was the building material of the future.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He even started a company, the Edison Portland Cement Company,
Wow.
to promote its use and develop new techniques for concrete construction.
I've heard about those concrete houses, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't sound very appealing.
I know.
What did he see in them?
He believed they could revolutionize housing, make it more affordable,
Right.
more durable, more
Yeah.
accessible to everyone.
Okay.
He envisioned these prefabricated concrete houses
Oh, okay.
that could be mass-produced
Wow.
and assembled quickly,
Okay.
providing a solution to those growing housing shortages in cities.
So he was thinking about issues like affordability and sustainability way back then.
Absolutely. He saw concrete as a fireproof, termite-proof,
Right.
incredibly durable material that could withstand the test of time.
Right.
And his focus on prefabrication was all about efficiency,
Yeah.
making construction more streamlined and cost-effective.
It's fascinating to see how his ideas foreshadow some of the key trends in architecture and construction today.
It really is.
It is. It's a testament to his vision and his ability to see the potential in everyday materials.
Exactly. And while his concrete houses never really took off in a big way,
Yeah.
they still show his commitment to using technology to solve real-world problems.
Okay, you've officially convinced me that concrete is way cooler than I thought.
Good.
But you mentioned something about talking dolls earlier.
Oh, yes.
I got to hear more about that.
All right. So here's the story.
Okay.
Edison, ever the tinkerer,
Yeah.
decided to apply his phonograph technology to create talking dolls.
Talking dolls.
Yeah.
Seriously, I can't even imagine what that must have been like back then.
I know, right?
Wild.
He created these tiny little recordings
Okay.
that could be inserted into the dolls.
So imagine a Victorian-era doll that could actually speak.
It's crazy, right?
That must have been mind-blowing for kids at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Did they become popular?
Well, unfortunately, the technology wasn't quite there yet.
Oh,
The recordings were fragile.
okay.
The sound quality was poor. And the dolls themselves were just expensive to produce.
So they never really took off commercially.
It never really took off.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
But it's another great example of how Edison was always pushing the boundaries of what was possible, even in like unexpected areas like children's toys.
He never stopped exploring, experimenting,
Yeah.
trying to bring his inventions into every aspect of life.
Speaking of exploring,
Yeah.
I'm curious to learn more about Edison the person.
Okay.
What was he like behind the scenes?
Well, for that, we're going to need to delve into his personal life,
Okay.
his family,
Right.
and even his views on religion.
Okay, let's uncover the man behind the myths.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're back, and I'm ready to kind of uncover the man behind all these inventions.
Yeah.
We've seen how Edison, revolutionized entire industries.
Right.
But now I'm curious about,
The personal side.
the personal side of this wizard of Menlo Park, right?
Right.
What was he like outside the lab?
Well, it seems Edison was a complex individual.
Driven and ambitious,
Right.
but also a family man in his own way.
Okay. Interesting.
He was married twice
Okay.
and had 6 children.
6 children. Wow. Okay. Tell me about his first marriage.
His first wife was Mary Stilwell,
Okay.
and she was actually quite young when they married,
Really?
just 16.
16. Wow. That's quite an age difference.
It was.
So what happened to Mary?
Sadly, she died at the young age of 29.
Oh, wow.
The exact cause of death isn't clear,
Okay.
but some historians believe it might have been a brain tumor.
That's tragic.
It is.
Did Edison remarry?
He did. 4 years after Mary's death, he married Mina Miller.
Mina Miller.
The daughter of a wealthy inventor and philanthropist.
It sounds like both of his wives came from pretty interesting backgrounds.
They did.
What about his relationships with his children?
Well, the sources suggest that Edison was a bit of a workaholic.
Yeah, I can see that.
Often spent more time in the lab than with his family.
Right. A classic inventor stereotype, I guess. Maybe.
It sounds like Mina was a strong presence in his life, though.
Absolutely. Mina was very involved in social causes,
Oh, yeah. Like what?
especially women's suffrage.
Oh.
A staunch advocate for her husband and his work.
So speaking of social causes, what were Edison's own views on things like politics and religion? Was he outspoken?
He was actually quite progressive for his time.
Oh, really?
He was a vocal supporter of women's suffrage,
Wow.
which was a very controversial stance back then.
Good for him.
Yeah,
It's always fascinating to see where these historical figures stood on the issues of their day.
it is.
What about his religious beliefs?
This is where things get interesting.
Okay, I like interesting.
The sources mention that Edison was often labeled an atheist,
An atheist.
particularly after a 1910 interview
Okay.
where he expressed some pretty unconventional views about God and nature.
An atheist in the early 1900s? That must have caused quite a stir,
Oh, it did.
I bet.
The press had a field day with his comments. But in private letters, he actually clarified his position,
Oh.
explaining that he believed in a supreme intelligence that governed matter,
Okay.
which he referred to as nature.
So more of a deist than an atheist.
Exactly.
Interesting.
He rejected organized religion
Right.
and the concept of a personal God,
Right.
but still acknowledged a higher power behind the universe.
It sounds like he had a pretty complex and nuanced perspective on religion,
He did.
which isn't surprising given his scientific mind.
Yeah, he seemed to approach everything with a questioning mind
Right.
and a desire to really understand the underlying principles.
Interesting.
Another example of this is his strong belief in nonviolence.
Real?
During World War I, when asked to be a naval consultant,
Okay.
he refused to work on anything that could be used offensively.
Wow.
He insisted on only contributing to defensive weapons.
A pacifist inventor?
Uh-huh.
That's a powerful combination.
It is.
Did his nonviolent beliefs extend to other areas of his life?
It seems so. He was reportedly a vegetarian and spoke out against cruelty to animals.
So, a man of science who also advocated for ethical treatment of animals.
Yes.
That's pretty remarkable for his time.
It is.
It sounds like Edison was a man full of contradictions.
He was.
A fascinating blend of, progressive and traditional views.
We're absolutely right. A man of his time,
Yeah.
yet in many ways ahead of his time.
Right.
Tireless innovator.
Yeah.
A shrewd businessman,
Right.
but also a deep thinker
Uh-huh.
with a really strong moral compass.
It's incredible how one person can embody so many different things.
It is.
It makes you realize that history is just full of these complex figures who defy easy categorization.
Absolutely, and that's what makes studying them so rewarding.
Yeah, there's always more to discover.
Oh.
There's more layers to peel back.
Exactly.
Well, I have to say, this deep dive into Thomas Edison's life has been a real eye-opener.
It has.
We learned so much, not just about his incredible inventions,
Yeah.
but also about the man himself.
Yeah.
His struggles, his triumphs, his beliefs, and even, his sense of humor.
Yeah, his personality really shines through.
It's amazing how much one person can achieve in a lifetime, isn't it?
It really is.
and how their impact can continue ripple through generations.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this episode, I think the biggest takeaway for me is this. Thomas Edison was more than just an inventor.
Yeah.
He was a visionary,
Uh-huh.
a risk-taker,
Definitely.
and a relentless pursuer of progress.
Yes.
Who fundamentally changed the way we live, work, and interact with the world.
He really did.
His story is a reminder that innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum.
It doesn't.
It's driven by people with passion, curiosity,
Yes.
and a willingness to kind of challenge the status quo.
Exactly.
Who knows, maybe some of our listeners out there
Yeah.
will be inspired by Edison's story
I hope so.
to pursue their own groundbreaking ideas
Oh.
and make their own mark on the world.
That would be amazing.
It would remember, the world is full of problems waiting to be solved,
It is.
and it's up to each of us to find creative ways to make a difference.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the extraordinary life of Thomas Edison.
It was a pleasure.